Hello and welcome. Today we are making Parmesan baked tomatoes. The original recipe is Romano, but we don't have Romano cheese, so we're using Parmesan. So our first step is going to be preheating our oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So preheat the oven to 400 degrees. And while that's going, we're going to put together the tomatoes. Alright, so first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut the tomatoes in half horizontally. And the original recipe calls for 2 tomatoes, but I want to make enough for my whole family, so we have 4 tomatoes. So then what we're going to put on the tomatoes are these right here. So it's the Parmesan, and then it gives you a selection of spices to choose. I chose to use an Italian seasoning blend, a quarter garlic powder, pepper, and then we'll sprinkle the top of it with some oil at the end. So I have already prepared the spice blends. Okay, and so the recipe calls for a quarter or 2 tablespoons of cheese for 2 tomatoes. So I just set out a container for each tomato. So each container, so for 1 tomato, is going to be 1 tablespoon of cheese, half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper, 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, and then I have the oil set aside, also doubled because I'm making double what the recipe calls for. Alright, so now that these are mixed, I'm going to get all of this set on the baking sheet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the mix for each tomato and sprinkle about half of it over the top of each half of the tomato, making sure it's pretty closely to evenly distributed. That's a little much there, so we'll take some, spread it over that. I did wash my hands, so they're clean. Alrighty. Then right before they go in the oven, you're going to drizzle them with the olive oil. Alrighty, and then right into the oven for 20 minutes. And while those are cooking, we're going to talk about why these cheese-baked tomatoes are heart healthy. The biggest thing that's going to be heart healthy, that would be more heart healthy, is if I had drizzled them with the olive oil the recipe calls for rather than canola oil, but we don't have any of the high-end olive oil stuff here, so that's going to be probably the biggest thing. You also want to make sure you're using low-fat cheese for this recipe, because that's going to be the other thing that makes it heart healthy, is it's not a high fatty kind of a cheese. So that's why they recommend Romano, but we just use, low-fat Parmesan, and so that's what makes this recipe heart healthy. Fresh out of the oven, and I'm excited. Okay, here we go. That is honestly super good. Would recommend.